Hi everyone, I'm Mike Handcock, and I'm going to be talking today about my new series of novels, the David Clarke series that's coming out on the 8th of November. And today I specifically want to talk about the first book, Truthseekers, and I want to talk to you about the really strange and quite mysterious group, the Templar Knights, that appear inside of Truthseekers. Now, Truthseekers is the first book in the series, and as I said, it's coming out on the 8th of November. It is a series of novels, but it's all action adventure and deep ancient wisdom. But I'd really suggest that any of you that are interested in alternative histories and the way things really work on the planet, and maybe looking at getting outside the norm a little bit, grab these books, enjoy them over the holiday break, and really start to understand the way things perhaps work on this planet. Now, the first book, Truthseekers, I mentioned in another video, involves the Templar Knights, the Hopi prophecy. We visit Angkor Wat. We look at the 13 families who control the world. And as David Clarke, the protagonist, Abby Beck, his partner, and Rocco Risotto, his business partner, go on this journey all around the world, you'll find it can be quite dangerous at times. It can be quite humorous at times, but always there's something there to get you thinking about, is this really true? And is this the way it works? So who were the Templar Knights? Well, firstly, the Templar Knights originally came about in 1118 AD, and when the Grand Master was Hughes de Payens, they're French initially, and Hughes led a team of 9 knights to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, to go and find some of the secret and archaic wisdom that was actually of the Egyptians. Now, the story of the Templars goes right back to an Egyptian pharaoh called Sequenia-Natal II, and who was murdered in cold blood by having his head beaten in whilst he was praying and meditating one day. But let's move on to the Templars. So Hughes and the 8 other knights go to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where they live and get special permission to dig under the mount for 9 years. Now, that's a long time. During that time, they make friends with people and they send goods and wealth back. Suddenly, the Templars, from coming from nothing in 1119, by the middle of the 12th century, they are the richest order of people on the planet. They are lending money to the kings and queens of Europe. They are lending money to the church. They are the army of the church, and they are the protectors of people doing the pilgrimage to the Holy Land. They set up the first banking system as well, and technically had what these days, if we could name it, would be a credit card scenario, where you would deposit your money at a bank in, say, Paris. You would get certain codes and certain letters, and as you went on your pilgrimage to the Holy Land, you could stay at a hotel or a place and basically restock your whole caravan, give your secret codes that would get taken back to the Templars, and you would get paid from a local Templar place. So they were pretty wealthy guys, and maybe girls, but I'll leave that for you to read in the book. Now, the Templars were disposed of in 1314. In fact, on that was the final date for them in October the 13th, 1307. They were basically captured and rounded up by King Philip the Fair and Pope Clementine V, and they were tortured and all of their wealth was taken. But of course, when you do that, you never get everything. So where did the remnants of the Templars go? Well, based on Egyptian wisdom, which they knew very well, and it's often said that they had the Ark of the Covenant and the Golden Menorah and other really crucial things to different religions from that time, they left France, and some of them went to Portugal, some of them went to Italy to hide out from the Pope. So the Pope didn't have a lot of influence at that stage in Portugal. Many of them went to Scotland, and others went to America because they were well aware of what was going on in America right back to Minoan times, which I also talk about in Truthseekers. So if you've ever watched The Curse of Oak Island, The Curse of Oak Island, which is a show and it's been going now for about 10 years on the History Channel. Talks about, is there Templar gold hidden under Oak Island in Nova Scotia, just not far from Halifax? I believe there certainly was at some stage, and I believe the Oak Island series has proven beyond all reasonable doubt that Oak Island had Templar links. So that's how far they sailed. So I believe they went to America for a while, and then they came back to Scotland. They arrived just in time, as history tells you, to help Robert the Bruce beat the English in the Battle of Bannockburn, which was the most significant fight in 1314, nearly said 2014, in 1314, which was the part where Scotland became a company. And then from there, they went underground. They were pretty hunted. So they moved from Templar Knights to becoming Freemasons. Now, this photo was taken outside the Roslin Chapel, which is in Stirling in Scotland. There's Lundy walking towards me. We've just spent some time in the chapel. We've been there a few times, in fact. And that is an incredible place to go. If you ever want to go and hunt the Templars and their wisdom, go to the Roslin Chapel. But what they did is they integrated there was the St. Clair family. So a lot of the French names were ST and then a surname like Claire, CLAR, or St. Omer, OMER. There's even a town there in France. They all come from around the Champagne region originally. And they became Sinclair in Scotland. So if you've got Sinclair and you're watching this as a surname, you are quite possibly related to a very deep and distant past order of the Templar Knights. They are Sinclairs in the modern world. And they set up shop there in Scotland. They turned to the church. They built this church, which strangely enough was the only church in Scotland in the 1600s that Oliver Cromwell did not destroy. Now, Oliver Cromwell was a Templar Knight and a Freemason at the same time. So from there, they moved on into America. And of course, if you look at the history of Washington, George Washington was a Freemason. So before I show you that, I want to suggest to you that you go and pick up these series of books. I think if you're already on this call, then and you're still here, then you're definitely going to be interested by the David Clarke series and what happens to Rocco, David, and Abby Beck as they journey through this series of 3 books, starting with Truthseekers. And Truthseekers is the book about the Templar Knights. So here I am in the home of the Freemasons in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And again, we've been there a few times. You have to have a special invite to get into the inner place there, which luckily we did get a few years ago. And as you'll see right above the fireplace, I'm pointing to a photo there of George Washington in his, well, it's not a photo, a painting of George Washington in his full regalia. And of course, if you look at the $1 note from America, there's lots of Masonic iconography of that. If you look at Washington itself, lots of iconography of that. But remember before, I told you that the Templars go right back to Egypt. And in Egypt, at the time of Sequenia there was the 2 pillars, the 2 kings of Egypt, the king of Upper Nile and the king of Lower Nile. They became the 2 pillars of Freemasonry. Joachim and Baez, they call them in Freemason, which is why when you go to any Freemason temple, you'll see the 2 pillars there at the front and a replica of them inside. Now, interestingly, when this guy, George Washington, decided that America was going to be the place that was going to be the new Egypt of the world, he took a depiction of the River Nile. So let's do it like that. The S, or winding S of the Nile, and he put the 2 pillars on it. And that's how we got the dollar signal today. So every day when we go out and spend money, we are utilizing a Templar and a Freemason symbology. Interesting, when you go into the secret archives here and into the Templar archives, it's not what you can see that's really easy to see, that's really interesting, but it's the patterns, the facts that the clocks are all set to the same times, things like that. And you really have to understand this stuff to know the iconography behind it. But I want to share one interesting thing with you. This is a $1 million bill from 1864. It's signed by the Confederate president at the stage, and guess where it is? It's in the secret vault of the Freemasons in Scotland. So a $1 million bill from 1864. I don't know what that is now. Is it $1 billion? I don't know. I haven't put it through the currency exchange rates of the day. But all of these things are things that we dig into as we have a very exciting, fun-filled and action-packed in the style of Dan Brown, Clive Cussler, James Rowland, Steve Berry, if you like any of those authors, and numerous others who write this style. I think you will really, really enjoy the David Clarke series of books. So that's all I have to say about the first book, Truthseekers, and the story of the Templars. Watch back because I will be covering other things from this book and other books as we go through. Bye-bye for now.